to that. You know, I have one question because, you know, you were in real estate, now you're in the insurance and financial industry, and I think you're still in the real estate business. But for me personally, my dad would teach me of something called the inferiority complex. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but for me personally, my dad would always, there's a lot of rhetoric today with minority communities, whether you're Black, Asian, Hispanic, that you're not good enough, and white people this, and that there's a wealth gap in America. And my dad used to actually say the opposite. He says, you got to learn that when you go out in the world, he said that when he was serving in the Navy, he would go to like the Philippines and Africa. They wouldn't consider him American, but he would reiterate that I am American. I'm serving the United States of America. And he was proud of it, right? And so going back to that, because of your background that you came into, you have every excuse in the world of saying, oh, you know, I didn't come from a good background. I'm not supposed to live the life that I'm living today. Was there ever like a linchpin or a decision that you made? And you mentioned earlier that you're like, you'll never make sure that your parents or your kids ever live the life that you lived when it came to financially. But was there ever a breaking point where you really had to break your mindset of like, no, I'm not believing that I come from this Mississippi background. That's where I came from, but I deserve to be in that.
100%.
What was that experience like? 100%. What was that mind shift like for you? And I guess what was your experience with that, breaking that inferiority complex?
Dude, I got saved. It's like how you said you got baptized recently.
Yeah.
I got saved, right? 1 Corinthians, I think it's 5, chapter 5, it talks about how who knows the thoughts of man except his spirit? Who knows the thoughts of God except God's spirit? And that now we have God's spirit on the inside of us, and so we know God is on the inside. So when I was growing up in Mississippi, I grew up in one of the most racist areas in Mississippi, and I grew up in poverty, right? So, and Mississippi is very segregated. So if you tell me what side of town you're on, I know you're on the black side of town, I know you're on the white side of town, I know you're on the Choctaw side of town, I know exactly where you're at, right? It's like Chicago is even one of the most segregated cities, right? Wow. Tell me what side, you live on the side, west side, I know exactly, I know where your people are, right? But Dylan, in 6th grade, man, 6th grade, I was tied to a tree and beat in and out of consciousness by 10 white dudes that said, you're only half, it ain't all right. And so all my life growing up, I hated myself. I hated my surroundings. I hated all the stuff I was going through. I used to question, why me? Why do I have to suffer? Why do I have to go through this? Right? And then when I got saved, God showed me, I let you go through all that because it's going to mold you into a unique human being, right? And I started feeling like, if God is on the inside of me now, and God is the ruler of this whole universe, everything is mine because I'm his son, right? There's scripture in Luke 15. Luke 15 is the prodigal son. And the scripture starts off talking with the Pharisees and all these guys, the unbelievers, they're in there, and Jesus tells a story about these two sons. One son did everything right. One son did everything wrong. But the crazy thing is, everybody talks about the prodigal son, but here's what they always forget about this scripture. It's not about either one of the sons. It's about the prodigal father, and I call him prodigal because the father was reckless with his love for his children. And when he saw his son, the rebellious one, the one that wasted all of this stuff, he saw him from a distance. The scripture says the father ran to him because I want to get to him before the community does, because they're going to shame him. So I'm going to come to him first, and I'm going to let him know he's loved. And I'm going to put the ring on his finger to let him know that you are my son. You represent my family. I'm going to put the sandals on your feet because you're not a slave. You are a son. You wear this. And I'm going to put the robe on you so that everybody knows that I'm covering you. And I have you covered. And when I saw that, I said, man, I looked at myself and I said, I am the prodigal son. I didn't know that you loved me. I thought that everybody hated me. I thought that I was an abandoned child. I thought I was worthless. And when it was the day I got saved, I realized, wow, maybe everything I went through was just to prepare me so that I can have a message for those who are where I was, right? 2018, I'm sitting in Laguna Beach, Florida, Laguna Beach, California, and it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm looking out at the Pacific Ocean, all these $1 million yachts. I'm in this nice, beautiful hotel, but the night before, I end up having a conversation with the guy. Hey, what brings you out to Laguna and all this stuff, and I'm telling him my story. And he goes, wow, Pat, you have a crazy story. He said, I have a question for you. If you could go back to a younger you, what would you tell yourself? And I sat there and thought about it. And the next morning, I didn't have an answer for him at the time, but the next morning I woke up and I'm sitting out there 5:30 in the morning and I open up Facebook and I go live. And I said, hey, there was a guy posed a question to me last night. He said, if I could go back to a younger me, what would I tell myself? And I realized what I would tell him. Nothing. Because he wasn't listening. However, if you are listening, this is what I can tell you. Also in 1 Corinthians, it says, no eye have seen, nor ear have heard, nor is it entered to the heart of man what God could do for those who love him. Right? And my story is in 2004, I was facing 120 years of prison. 15 years later, I'm in Laguna Beach signing a contract to bring Realty One Group. We'd be the fastest growing brokerage in San Antonio. We'd sell $165 million worth of real estate in this first year, right? I went from 0 agents to 80 agents in less than 7 months.
Wow.
Right? Everybody was like, how the heck did you do that? It's in me, not on me. There's something on the inside of me that gave me the ability, but it took a lot of pain, sacrifice, and it took a lot of inner battles to win. That self-rejection that I had to deal with, I had to get rid of that self-rejection before I could get to a place where I could show you how to overcome your self-rejection, right? So I wouldn't have every gift I have today if it wasn't for all my past. Matter of fact, there was a guy one time, he said, you know why God made you, made the first man a farmer? I was like, no. He said, so they teach you what to do with all the manure that happens in your life. Manure is good for growing the vegetables in the garden, right? And so his job was to tend to the garden. And so take all the manure that happens in your life and don't just let it stake up your life, put it to work in your life.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, click right here to see more. And if you want to see the full episode, click right here to see the full episode.
But in that house, there was some fountain. One down, one down, one down.